We all have those defining moments in life that just absolutely change you. One of the biggest ones for me was when my first child, Madison, was born. I've never felt love like that in my entire life. That feeling of putting something before yourself at any cost. I was lucky enough to have it again when my son Xavier was born. X, and boy was he tough from the beginning. His mom was on bed rest for 6 months, comes into the world, didn't even cry. He's an amazing kid full of wonder. His first sound was always bop every time he saw a ball. So no doubt that he became a basketball player. It's pretty incredible. I try to think of a 24-hour period that sort of sums him up a bit. He came home from school one day and he tells me, "Father, I'd like to go out for the football team." And I mean, I panicked. I was like, this kid has never been physical about anything he's ever done in his life. Tried talking him out of it that night. The next day, being a supportive father, I'm like, all right, X, get out there and do it. At 10 o'clock that morning, I had a panic attack. I'm like, wait a minute, my kid's going to middle school wearing Spider-Man underwear. We all know what middle school's like. I better rush over to Dick's Sporting Good and get him some Under Armour underwear immediately. Help protect them against those monsters. Well, he went out for the football team that evening, made the traveling team, and a kid who was musical from birth played in an orchestra that night for his school. He was a recorded artist, unbelievably talented, gentle, and goofy. On March 11th of 2021, I was right here in Breckenridge, snowboarding. I was supposed to stay for a couple days, but an internal alarm went off and said, you need to go home. You need to go see your son. So I make the drive down and see him, and he's getting ready to go lift weights, and then give him a big kiss and a hug like I always do. And then afterwards, he comes back home. We had dinner together and said goodnight, I love you, like we did every night, around 9 o'clock or so. Snapchatted into the night for a while, and I fell asleep. Well, on March 12th of 2021, I got that call, that information that no one ever wants to get, that my son died in my own home. And the hardest phone call I ever had to make in my life was to my daughter. I remember distinctly all the chaos that day, so distinctly, the word fentanyl being said by the detective. So I had to come to terms once the coroner report came out that my son died from fentanyl poisoning. So why did I say fentanyl poisoning? Well, society has a way of putting everything in a bucket, doesn't it? Just in the news 2 weeks ago, there was a 1-year-old, a bunch of babies in New York, in the Bronx. They were at a daycare on their sleeping mats. 3 of them had to go to the hospital. 1 died. Is that an overdose? I think it's a poisoning. If I asked you now, and I want you to think of the answer in your head, because I'm going to pause. Mac Miller, Tom Petty, Prince. How did they die? Well, most people would say overdose. Fentanyl was involved. That's a poisoning. As recently as last month, there was a lady on trial. Her husband comes home, wants a Moscow Mule. And instead, he gets a Moscow Mule with fentanyl in it. Killed him on the spot. So is that an overdose? Or is it a poisoning where you're getting one thing that looks like another? So a few things about fentanyl. It's the #1 cause of death in America today, from the ages of 18 to 48. A lethal dose is the size of 2 grains of salt, or 2 milligrams. That's all it takes. One of the ways that this is really happening today is through fake scripts, street scripts. This is what happened to our Xavier RX. He was given a half a Percocet that looked dead on like the same thing because he was feeling sore. How many times have one of you had a headache or some pain and a friend of yours gave you a pill to relieve that pain? Well, in his case, It was a lethal pill. And so over time, we're starting to see more and more deaths from fentanyl, and I believe a lot of it, we believe, is due to fentanyl poisoning. Right now, fentanyl is also a cause for a third of the deaths in America today. Stop and think about that. A third of the deaths. And again, I want to highlight the fact that whenever you hear the word overdose, and maybe I was guilty too, before March 12th of 2021, you automatically think they were seeking drugs. They overdosed because they couldn't get enough. And maybe I put people in that bucket too. So, my gift, our gift to all of you today is the knowledge that you've been given here to spread awareness to the loved ones that you have, to start discussing and having these hard conversations about poisoning. In America and all around the world, it's a pill for an ill. Whether it's weight loss, anxiety, hair loss, it's always a pill for an ill. So it's easy for us to take that. For those of you who are parents out there, brothers, sisters with loved ones, it's easy to do. So educate your families and friends on the dangers of fentanyl and fentanyl poisoning in particular. These are the faces of fentanyl. People that were taken away way too soon from their loved ones. It's not just about my son, it's a myriad, and the faces are endless, and they're being categorized into that overdose bucket. So I want you to take this message forward and help us save lives. Thank you.